Today, everyone. We are Group 7, and we are going to be presenting our chosen problem, which is Texago Corp. Okay, so starting off with a brief introduction, Texago Corp has chosen St. Louis as a site for its new refinery. So, initially planning a capacity of 120 million barrels per year. This would allow the company to fully meet projected demand while operating all refineries at full capacity. However, management is now considering expanding the capacity to 150 million barrels to prepare for possible future increases in demand. Although the expansion would mean higher upfront capital costs, estimated at $1.2 billion, it could save Texago from needing to build a separate refinery later. So the task force is now asked to analyze how this change would affect shipping plans and total costs, and whether or not the financial comparison among sites would shift under the expanded capacity.
For part A, we use the maximum output in Solver to show the maximum total cost that Texago Corp will do. So the total cost would be 1,920,000,000. For part B, we used minimum output in Solver to show the optimal shipping plan from the refineries to the distribution center. Comparing the total cost, part A had 1,920,000,000 while Part B had 970 million. The change is shown in the shipment quantity where New Orleans gets their oil from Texas and Middle East, Charleston gets from the Middle East, Seattle gets from Alaska, and Los Angeles gets from Texas, California, and Alaska.
Now, situation C requires us to see what if instead of crude oil, we used the basis of the shipping cost of finished product oil. So with this, and along with the fact that it requires St. Louis as an additional refinery, we created a transportation model using table 17.18 costs. So refinery capacities, including St. Louis at 150 million barrels, and distribution center demands 180, 80, 100. Solver was used to minimize total shipping costs by adjusting shipment quantities from each refinery to each distribution center. The resulting optimal plan prioritized lower cost routes, with St. Louis only used if it reduced overall cost. But as you can see, is not really recommended, especially it's given like zero allocation for now.
So moving on to Part D, based on the plan outlined in Part C, which specifies the crude oil processing volumes for each refinery, the spreadsheet presents an optimized model for shipping crude oil from oil fields to refineries. The shipment quantity table details how crude oil is distributed to refineries in Charleston, Seattle, Los Angeles, and Galveston. So ensuring all supply and demand constraints are met. The total cost for this optimized crude oil shipping plan amounts to 960 million, which is significantly lower than the original 1.73 million shown in figure 17.3, which is part A, indicating a more efficient allocation. So when combining both crude oil and finished product shipping costs under this plan, the total reaches about 970 million dollars, a notable improvement over the previous total of 3.12 million when Galveston alone was used as the refinery site as per table 17.20 and part B. This demonstrates that using the refined multi-site plan for part C not only meets operational requirements but also drastically reduces total logistical costs, making it the most cost-effective solution among all evaluated options.
So, for Part E, by including St. Louis as the new refinery, we are able to calculate in terms of the demand being 150. We are able to calculate the total cost in millions being 1,640. This is also accounting for the unit cost of St. Louis, which is 1 million in Texas, 4 million in California, 7 million in Alaska, and 4 million in the Middle East. Following Part E is Part F, where Saint we replace Los Angeles with St. Louis and include Galveston instead in the refineries. So the end result of this is that we will be accounting for the unit cost of Galveston, which is 1 million in Texas, 3 million in California, 5 million in Alaska, and 3 million in the Middle East, accounting for the original demand. We will get a total cost of 1,330 million.
All right, so finally we move on to the recommendations. So after analyzing the site options, shipping costs, and future demands of projections, our group recommends moving forward with the construction of new refineries at both St. Louis and Galveston. In addition, we support expanding the total annual capacity from 240 million to 360 million barrels of crude oil, so that this strategy does not because this strategy does not meet current market forecast, but also prepares Texago for long-term growth. So it also reduces the risk of future capacity shortfalls and offers potential savings in capital and logistic costs. So that'll be all. Thank you for listening.